Chapter 24, Hannah. I swear to God I could kill him. I can't believe he did this to me. I was still off the stupid mandatory community service list. I was happy about it because my plans to do it all in senior year had not changed. And stupid Seth finds out and decides that it's irresponsible of me, so he goes and talks to Mr. Sung, my guidance counselor. There was this big mess, and now I have to do my sophomore and junior community service this second instead of in senior year when Seth would have already graduated and been at college and wouldn't have missed any time with him. He told on me. I can't believe it. So then I had to tell my parents and my father sided with him, but my mother said, yes, it was irresponsible, but it wasn't Seth's business to fix her daughter. That set off a big argument about how I was spending an awful lot of time with him, and maybe that should change too. I was like, OMG, if he had just minded his own business, none of this would have happened in the first place. The most hurtful part is that with him doing his community service outside of his town, and then working at the bowling alley, and me not having to do double time, there's no way I can spend time with him too, not any decent time besides at school. He said it was worth the sacrifice because his parents brought him now that it was senior year, and his father wanted him to go to his alma mater, and his mother to hers, and he was holding out for Rutgers because it meant he would still be near enough to see me on weekends and all, but it just really peeved me off because I'd overstepped my bounds and done it to him. He would have had a serious fit. He brought me a rose at school, though, and acted really sorry, but there was something off about it. I don't know, maybe it was me. So now I have to make up, 60 hours of community service before winter break? That's just great. Without saying anything to anyone but my parents and the Schoenmakers, I decided my own community service idea and presented it to Mr. Song, who I like very much because he's a big supporter of the rights of the individual in the pursuit of happiness. But most important, Mr. Song never gives me a pain about my cut slips. Too many this week, Hannah. You had more free time than classes again, I see. Me? Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Sung, but if I went to all my classes, I would have never seen Seth. You are going to end up shoveling manure for a living someday, Hannah. Me? I already do that here every day, Mr. Sung. Then he cracks up, and so do I. He tries to look at me like I'm a grave disappointment, but he's no good at it because his eyes are always merry, and he just seems to be glad to be alive. It's refreshing. So anyway, I knew my idea was going to be a tough sell. So I bought a smoothie and a bagel with cream cheese from the cafe and went into the guidance with a big smile and an obvious pride. Hey, Mr. Sung, you look happy this morning, I said, setting my offering on his desk. Here, I brought you a present just because you're so splendid. I pulled up a chair and sat down, grinning because I knew he was doing what I was doing, but that was okay. Have I mentioned how handsome you look in burgundy? You should always wear it. I hear that Nuns go crazy every time you walk by, but don't them, I told you, or I'll get in trouble. Mr. Sung leaned back in his chair, lips twitching. Hannah, every year I'm blessed with a challenge. A student who somehow manages to circumvent the rules, flout the requirements, ignore the classes, and who still leads the faculty. Not only happy to see her, but willing to find ways to help her squirm through. Congratulations on making it 2 for 2. His grin widened. I'm pretty sure you're going to set some sort of St. Ignatius school record. Well, I tried, I said demurely, making him laugh. No, but seriously, this stupid mandatory community service thing, I need to complete, sophomore and junior service by winter break? That's 60 hours, he said. I don't see how, well, actually, I said, and then made an apologetic face for interrupting him. Sorry, but I already found a perfect worthy cause that would work really well. It'll give me all the hours I need. Since I have to do it, there's no way around it, I mean. He chuckled and shook his head. Why does this not surprise me? Alright, what's the big plan? You're going to run a blood drive for senior green pacers or save the whales ship while teaching English as a second language? Oh, you're a real wise guy today, I said, giving him a look and going on to explain how my neighbors, the Schoenmakers, sort of ran an animal rescue sanctuary, and Gran had Parkinson's, and not only did they help caring for the rescue cats, but Grandpa worked as a crossing guard to supplement their social security, which, as we all knew, was like a pittance compared to what they needed in real life just to afford their medication and all. Isn't she in a nursing home? He said, frowning slightly. No, and that's the whole point, I said quickly, because I knew it was against the rules for students to volunteer in private homes. She doesn't want to go into a nursing home, but they've used up the free daycare help and the church and all, and Grandpa is there with her every day except for the hours he needs to be a crossing guard. So, Hannah, he said, "Oh, Mr. Sung, please just listen outside the box for a minute." "Okay," I said, giving him anxious spaniel eyes because I was not above using what I had to get what I needed. Besides, it always amused him whenever I tried to persuade him into supporting outlandish ideas. They can't hire babysitters because they have no money. They've already put in formal requests to all the high schools to be considered for the community service lists and were turned down, but it isn't fair. "Explain," he said, and sat back like he was ready to enjoy the show. That was a very good sign. "Well, if Gran was in a nursing home, then I could spend every single day there getting pinched by smelly old bald guys with waggly eyebrows and giant hairy moles, and breathing in every hideous geriatric germ known to man, and the school would still absolutely give its blessing, right?" He covered his face and waved me on. "But here's something in a private setting who isn't a burden on society and who isn't draining the system resources." I paused. Waited until he looked at me again and gave him a knowing look because I was very proud of that phrase and wanted to make sure he caught it. "And so she gets told no. You're not allowed to have any help because you won't spend the rest of your life the way we think you should. That's not fair." He glanced pointedly at the clock. It was almost time for home rooms, so I gave it all I had. "I know this family, Mr. Song. I've known them since I was born, and I've been their house 1,000 times. Who do you think lends me all those books you always see me reading? Gran, that's who. Back when they had money, she used to belong to maybe 5 book clubs, but now," I sighed and shook my head, "well, now she can't even hold a book anymore. And how sad is that? So Grandpa gets her audiobooks and she listens to them, and they're actually kind of boring now because she's only getting these back-to-the-land biographies by old hippies." I got his amusement at my digression and rallied. "Anyway, it's perfect." "My parents are totally behind it, and I can do my homework while I'm there with her, and they really, really need help. I mean, isn't that the whole point of doing community service anyway? Helping people who really need it, and not just sitting around pushing papers and stuffing envelopes?" I sat up straight, nodded, and gave him my brightest smile. "So what do you say? Will you go to bat for me on this, please?" Score. There was more to it than that, of course. There always is whenever you have to ask permission for something. Mr. Song said he'd have to go out to the Schoenmakers to make sure they really did exist, and it wasn't actually something like Schoenmaker's billiard parlor or tanning salon. He really is a wise guy, but it was as good as done. I waited until I got the official nod and then told Sammy, who thought I was nuts for not going for the easy envelope stuffing job at the local politician's headquarters, and Seth, who just gave me a smug grin and said, "See, well, that wasn't so bad, right?" I felt like punching him and said so, but he laughed and kissed me. I really do love him. I complain, but it really is great knowing he cares enough to look out for me.